Hey everyone, we love the thought of marriage and we say those vows. Do you take to be your lawfully wedded husband, to have and to hold in sickness and in health, to death do us part? We say that, but what happens when that really happens? Do you have what it takes to be there and honor those vows? Well, we have a guest today and we're going to talk about it. So if you're ready, let's go. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to We're Gonna Talk About It with Wanda. My name is Wanda L. Floyd, and I have an amazing guest with me here today. And our topic today is in sickness and in health, loving someone who is dealing with dementia. Now, here on We're Gonna Talk About It, we talk about a varieties of things, whether it's relationships, health, wellness. We talk about the Bible. We talk about hair care. We talk about business. But today we're talking about self-care. And as I stated when we first opened, we love marriage and we say those vows that I'll be with you in sickness and in health, to death do us part. But what happens when you actually are faced with that? Today, Miss Carla is here, and I'm so happy that she is here with us, who has an amazing story that she is going to try to briefly share with us. But I thought it was very important for us to tap into this topic because a lot of us in our families dealing with our loved ones have faced some form of this illness in some ways or the other. Now, I'm just going to read a little bit of her bio, but I'm going to let her introduce herself as soon as I get finished. Miss Carla Prayer is she is a licensed cosmetologist. That's how I first met her. Licensed cosmetologist, now self-care coach. Her husband, Patrick Prayer, was diagnosed with Lewy body dementia in 2018. And for 18 years, she walked alongside him as his caregiver until he made his peaceful transition in January of 2023. Now, through this heartbreak and healing, she has learned how vital faith is, her community is, support is, and how especially it's needed for caregivers who often feel invisible. As a caregiver self-care coach, she has dedicated her life to supporting those who give so much of themselves, while her passion is to amplify the voices of the women caring for people behind the scenes. They are the quiet heroes who need to be seen, supported, and sustained. And I am so elated to have with me today Miss Carla Prayer. Miss Carla, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be here with us. As a matter of fact, we got to make it quick because you got to go somewhere else today. But could you do our audience a favor and introduce yourself to them?
Well, again, my name is Carla Prayer, licensed cosmetologist for all over 45 years. Oh my goodness, that's a few minutes, huh? Like I said, devoted wife. Escorted my husband through his journey with Lewy body dementia. A friend, confidant, author, sister, daughter. What else is there? Now, what is my position? I'm in a documentary,
Hmm.
so it's not acting because it was truly my story. So that is it.
That's wonderful. And I met you as a cosmetologist. We met. My nickname is Bonshika, and and that's Shaquisha over there, Shaquisha Shaquanda, but I'm Bonshika. And we and Miss Carla and I met as educators. We were product knowledge educators. We hit it off. I love her so much. She ran a salon for years, and what I love about this is that when it came time to step up, she shut everything down and focused on the needs of her husband. So, Lewy body dementia. Let's start off about what this journey was like. How did it begin?
Actually, how did it begin? Actually, it began, and I didn't know it had began. When Patrick and I first got married, I remember he had met several of my friends, but one in particular seemed like would have stood out in his mind. And he had a conversation with her. It was at my bridal shower, and he didn't remember the conversation. And my thought was, oh, okay. When we get married, I'm gonna slow his butt down. No, he is just way too busy. He loved his job, so he worked all the time. Um, and then moving forward, I will say about 2012, I noticed things changing. He had forgot the alarm code, which was the code that he had long before he met me. You know,
Mhm.
uh, his demeanor changed. He started getting really intense. The fun, goofy side of him, it it had diminished. You
Mm,
know, that was one of the things. We were so crazy together. I mean, that was my buddy. And that started changing, and I wasn't sure what was going on with him.
mm,
And then I gave him a surprise 50th birthday party. And his cousin came and stayed with us. And we snuck her out of the house because she was one of the Supremes. And she did an excellent job. She was so entertaining that to this day, people are still talking about what's the cousin's name that was one of the Supremes fighting with the other ladies in the Supremes. I mean, she put on a good show. He didn't even remember her. And this was like, so that was for his 50th birthday party. So when we was talking about it, it had to be, he might have been like 53.
mm,
And so he did remember, but not only did he not remember her at the party, he didn't remember that she stayed at our house.
mm.
Actually, he didn't remember her at all.
Wow.
That's when I put my foot down. I said, "Oh no, you need to rest. We need to slow down." And he finally came to the conclusion, yeah, he needs to slow down because he worked two jobs, um, loved his job, and both the places was operating room in both places. So I said, no, you got to slow down. So we had started making plans on selling the house and
Mhm.
downsizing the house.
I
And
remember that.
yeah, we were working together then. And before we had a chance to do that, he called me. He said, hey, I need you to meet me at the doctor's office. He called me right then. And I got there and I walked up to him while he was standing in front of the office. Tears was running down his face. He said, I can't go back to work. And I agreed. I said, well, we talked about this. It's time for you to let this place go. Now, I might add,
Mhm.
I was a little more colorful than that because at the time he was just telling me how he was being picked on and how and which, the older generations were dealing with a lot of things on the job. you know we are older. They wanted to get us older folks out, and a lot of times he was in the old program where he was at the top of the pay scale. So if they got rid of the older generation in that first segment, they could work with younger folks and pay them less money. So that's what I'm hearing, and I'm upset because they antagonize him. Well, yeah, that was part of the story, but that wasn't the whole story.
Ah,
All he knew is they was antagonizing and wanting him out, and which the most of the people that he started with were already gone.
Mm.
So the story fit. And I literally just found out a little more probably in the past couple of months
Wow.
from a lady that I friended her on Facebook. She's a singer. I said, I think that's the lady Patrick used to tell me about. I friended her, and before she accepted, she said, "Are you Patrick Prayer's wife?" I said, "Yeah, but he passed away with dementia 2 years ago." She said, "Oh my God, I thought now this is all in Messenger." She
Okay.
said, "I thought I noticed something." Immediately, I put my phone number in and said, "Call me." And she called me right away. I said, "What do you mean?" And she told me what she thought she saw.
Okay.
I said, "Oh," and she's sharing this with me. I was like, "You are the first person." Now he's been gone 2 years. You're the first person from his job that has said anything to me about this. And she said, "Carla, I did notice on both jobs," because they kind of intertwine on both jobs in the operating room. And the operating room, that's nothing to play with. That's fast paced. You got to make sure the patient's taken care of. So that's not a job to play with.
Right.
And so apparently it was enough of a situation that they had demoted him. He did not tell me that.
Ah.
And I don't know if it was demote because the pay didn't go down, but they had moved his position to another position. But he said one of the doctors said, we can't keep doing this, you know. But no one stopped to say, "Hey, what's wrong?"
Yeah. Or to
They knew
find
how,
out what was
yeah,
wrong.
they knew how dedicated he was. They never thought to see what was going on with him. So I say that to say, if you see something, say something.
Yes.
Say something. And I get they have to be careful because that can run into problems for them. But some kind of way, we got to figure out how to, just like I was a part of the bill being passed for the doctors to get a toolkit for earlier diagnosis. Well,
Diagnosis.
we got to figure out some type of toolkit that in the workplace, if you see something, that it's okay for you to say something,
Yes. I agree.
especially in that type of job. And my girlfriend Linda, that's in the documentary, um, same thing was with his job. They really liked him, so they just changed his position
His
because they
position.
did not deal with the situation. And it's like time has gone by now. He could have
Yeah.
gotten in on some trial things,
Yeah.
but a
Yeah.
lot of things they want to get it early,
Yeah.
before they start the trial. So that was the noticing and moving forward.
So we're
Uh,
at 2018. And
mhm.
because I remember some classes, you missing some classes because you needed to take care of watch him. You were concerned about some things. I'm gonna stay home with Patrick today. Some things just don't seem right. I remember that. And that was like, what was that, 2011, 2013, 2012? Something like that.
Yeah, that's when I started really, really noticing 2012, 2013. It was 2012. I'm not sure if you remember when we went to Indianapolis and he fainted on the plane.
Okay.
And when we got to Indianapolis, we had a good time, came back. He fainted again on the plane coming back to Sacramento. They turned the plane around and
Okay.
took us back to Indianapolis, and we had to catch the train back.
Okay.
Well, that was a part of it. They thought it was something with his heart.
Okay.
And they really, because Lewy body is hard to diagnose.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
We're gonna get to that too, because I,
Mhm.
I've been listening to interviews, and you know, it was a minute before they even could narrow down what his diagnosis was. And
Yes.
so 2018, he is diagnosed, and what happens then?
Okay. So keep in mind, he retired suddenly in 2014. It took us 4 years to get the diagnosis. So
Okay.
20, yeah, yeah. So in the meantime, we sold our house, and that was 14 by 2015. We sold our house, downsized, still fighting to get the diagnosis. They kept saying mild cognitive impairment. I was like, no, this is way more than that. I'm here. So I started videoing him,
Mm.
the different things he was doing, how he was hanging up his clothes was just bizarre. How he would pile up stuff in the corner. So I started taking pictures and videoing what he was doing and saying. So they still was not willing to give us a diagnosis. So I took him out of the network and I took him over to Stanford. And then when I took Stanford's diagnosis back to his doctor, that's when they ordered the PET scan.
Hmm.
Now, in my mind, they could have ordered the PET scan 2 years earlier. So you have to fight. I did not know that I could have really insisted on a PET scan. I didn't know that. And
Hmm.
so that's one of the reasons why I'm doing what I'm doing, to help people to get the answers and how to better care for their loved ones.
Yeah, because a lot of us don't know. And one of the things that you said in the interview was that within the African American community, we don't reach out to support groups. We don't know what to do. And my dad had dementia. I'm like 24, 25 years old. I don't know
Mm,
what to do. I didn't know to reach out to a support group. I didn't know what to do for him. I just tried to take care. I had guilt behind that for so many years because I didn't know what to do, and
right.
so we need people like you that are willing to say, look, I'm here. This is what you need. And like you said, they're caring for people and they're invisible. They get lost. Who checks on them? That's caring for, because it's not an easy job. It's not an easy job.
Mm-mm, mm-mm. Caregiving is never easy, but I will say caring for a dementia patient, I think by far is one of the most challenging uh, caregiving positions to be in, because they're adults. They know they're adults, but yet they revert back.
Mhm.
And then they go through this challenge of not knowing who you are. Matter of fact, just last night, um, is this thing that in my support group, I'm still in 3 support groups.
Okay.
One of the support groups were all widows. The other support groups is a mixture. It's the African American wives, and the code is when she calls me, she needs help.
Okay.
And she just called me last night, and she said, "Dr. Prayer, I need you to talk to your patient. He's really having some issues here." And it was on my voicemail, and I seen that she had called twice. I was like, "Oh my God, what is?" So I picked it up and called back, and I heard the message, "Dr. Prayer, I need you to call your patient." So I
Mhm.
called back
Mhm.
and I said, "Hello, Charlotte. This is Dr. Prayer." "Well, yes, Richard here is having some issues and this." And then she pulled away. She said, "He doesn't recognize me as his wife," and da 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 da, and going back and forth. I said,
Mhm.
"Okay." And so you could tell she was back in his presence again. So could you let him know, um, that he can't leave? So I said, I got it. So she gives him the phone. And I say, "Hey, how are you? This is Dr. Prayer. What seems to be the problem?" I'm real professional, sounding like a
Yeah.
doctor. And he said, "Something's wrong. Something's wrong." I said, "Well, what seems to be the problem?" So I'm trying to listen to him and just really gauge to what he is saying and I said, "Okay, so listen, I need you to wait until the morning because everything is closed right now. So I really need for us, let's get together first thing in the morning, and you come by the office because I'm not in the office right now, and then we'll go over some things and see what we can do to make it better. How does that sound?" "All right, Dr. Prayer. Thank you. Thank you for talking to me. But and that was the second or third time I had to do that with
Okay.
them. And the first time it was like it caught us both off guard because she was in a meeting with us, and he started having his moment.
Yeah.
I said, "Girl, I'm gonna hang up. I'm getting ready to be the doctor. Just hang up." And she called
Wow.
back. She was like, and I just thought on the notion, but someone had did it for me.
Okay.
And it wasn't rehearsed. My neighbor around the corner, Chris, I called. I said, what is it? I said, "Hello, Dr. Lai." He said, "This is Chris around the corner." I said, "Yes, I know, Dr. Lai. Could you talk to your patient?" And that's all I said. Chris knew immediately and
That's
stepped in.
good.
He stepped in such character. I thought he really was a doctor.
So you learn what to do when they're
Yes,
having those moments of crisis, when they want
yes.
to leave and go somewhere. Because
Mhm.
I know I turned my back. My dad said he wanted to go to the bathroom. I turned my back. My dad was up the street
Mhm,
trying to
mhm.
try with a handful of papers, trying to go do lodge work because he was in a lodge. He was the
Oh,
secretary. So
okay.
yeah, and so having those support groups are so important because you knew exactly what to do to get him to calm down. Okay, not dismiss him, but just say, okay, we're going to handle this in the morning. And he feels like he's heard. Okay, we'll handle
Yes.
it in the morning. And by the morning time, he's good. So
Right.
he's good, she's good.
Right. Right. And that's
Definitely.
the key. When you said you and I, we're in our right mind. Some people might question that, but anyway, we still want to be heard. So in their mind, it's magnified. They just need to be heard and understood and agreed with. And that's what you do. You step in the world, you agree with them, and then you redirect it.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's so good.
Mhm.
That's so good. So tell me a moment with Patrick while going through this. That was a funny moment that you could think of. Give us a funny moment.
There were a number of moments because he was funny. The one well, let me go back to the story that's really funny and I can say on air. he he called me. I was on my way from work, and he said, "Babe, come home. There's a truck. There's a truck on the fence." I was like, "A truck on the fence?" Now, mind you, I told you that we had sold our house. We was like on an acre land. Now, if we were still over there, I could see a truck getting in the backyard, but we had downsized so small, girl, you could barely get a bike in our backyard.
Okay.
So, a truck? What do you mean? He said, come on, I need you to see this truck." So I get home. I said, "Babe, show me the truck." And he says, "It was back here. It was rocking back and forth on the fence." I was like, "It was rocking back, really?" And I'm like, "Well, sweetheart, do you think that just maybe you might be having a hallucination?" "I am not crazy." Whoa, whoa, okay. Okay, no, you're not crazy. I backed up. And as my dog is looking at me, I said, "Okay, no." And so we go back in the house, and I'm like, "Oh my goodness. Now, what if I had not been in support group and knew that hallucinations was one of the symptoms?" Again, getting support groups. So I go back in the house, and I'm sitting in the bathroom on the edge of the tub, and I'm like, "Oh, Jesus, this is getting real." So here comes my little furry guy. You want to say hi to the people? Come say hi so they know what you said. And he
He's
gets up.
so pretty too. Look at him,
Yeah,
handsome.
come on,
Look
Punky.
at handsome.
Hi there.
Hi, Pooh.
So he comes in and he's licking all on my hands as if to say, "It's gonna be okay, mommy. It's
Oh,
gonna be okay. I got you. I got you. It's gonna be good." And I looked at him. I said, "Choice." That's his name because he was a good choice for us.
mhm.
I said, "Thank you for choosing us to be your family. Thank you for coming to live with us. I just really appreciate you coming to live with us, huh?" And when I said that, I looked up. Patrick comes barreling out of the bedroom, barreling into the bathroom. He's looking at me with his eyebrows all tangled up in confusion. He looks at me. He looks at the dog. He looks at me. I mean, the eyebrows got tangled up even more. Looks at the dog. He looks back at me. He said, "You are here talking to the dog and you think I'm crazy?"
Ah,
So that's when I knew that he was back. He
that's
realized it was a hallucination. And we must have laughed about 10, 15 minutes off that. I mean, we laughed until we cried because that's what we used to do. We were so goofy together. So that was one of the many stories. Yeah, other stories was quite interesting. I'll tell you off air.
is there one that might be the hardest?
Mm, yeah. The hardest, it was the timing of it.
Okay.
My mom had passed away,
Mm,
and we went back to Indianapolis, and this It was around that time. I want to say this was the first glitch. So we went home for her service, and we're sitting um, during the repast. We're sitting there and, having lunch and, just talking. And he looks at me and he says something. He said, "What is your name?"
Mm.
And because he's a jokester, I'm like, "Okay, is he?" I said, "Carla." He said, "Carla, your wife, Carla?" And when he looked at me like, "I'm sorry, I don't remember you,"
Wow.
at
Oh,
my mom's repast.
oh,
That was the first glitch. And
okay.
I sat there. I just sat back, took a deep breath because I'm trying not to be noticeable. But my little brother, he knows me well. He could see me
Mm.
across the room and he just looked at me like, so he got up and walked around. He sat next to me. He said, "What's wrong?" I said, "Pastor doesn't know who I am." And he's very, very sensitive to other people. I even
Mhm.
had said, "Okay, but no one needs to know this is going on. We're gonna act normal."
Okay.
We after the repast, and he goes. He knew I was always someone safe.
Mhm.
We go to my mom's house, and they have our wedding picture up on the mantle. And he walks up to it and he says, "Look at me and my beautiful wife." So it came back. So
Yeah.
his memory would come and go.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
he was just having moments of
yeah,
memory loss at that time.
yeah. But that
So,
was the first time that
okay,
happened.
that
That was because it was at my mom's funeral on top of that. It
okay.
was like a double
Yeah.
whammy at one
I
time.
lost my mom, and now my husband don't remember me. Uh,
Yeah. Hmm.
so I can understand why. And when I read the bio where it says you understand now how vital your faith was, community and support. Talk to me about how vital that your faith was.
Girl, I have tapped into my spirituality like no other time ever. I was fearful. I didn't know which way to turn. I didn't know what to expect. All I knew what dementia was loss of memory. I was learning that hallucinations, I did not know he was going to forget who I was. Hallucinations, the agitation, not able to take care of themselves like they normally would. Um, it was a whole eye opener. And when I tell you, I needed some knee pads. I
Mm,
have never, but at the same time, God has shown me so many times before I even met Patrick. There were things that happened to me at 5 years old that happened 5 days before I got married. A touch tone that God let me know. I've been preparing you for this. My girlfriend, Betty Calloway, she had a dream about me long before I met Patrick. And when we got engaged and I was moving my stuff into his home, every week I was take stuff over there and she called me. I remember sitting in his driveway and she said, "Girl, the dream is here. The dream is here." I said, "What dream?" She said, "Don't you remember, when you hung up on me?" I said, "Well, girl, which time was that?" Because we would hang up. We get tired of each other. We just hang up on each other. But it was nothing but love. That's my sister. Matter of fact, that's where I'm going tonight.
okay.
But interesting, she said, "Yeah, remember the dream? I told you was getting married and it was fast. And you got mad at me because initially she said, 'You're not going to like this dream.' Well, I was dating someone else, but we had broke up, but we were friends, very cordial with one another. And we was kind of going back and forth, but we knew we weren't going to get back together."
Mhm.
And I said, "See, there you go again, dipping in my business clique."
Ah,
So then time goes on and we're engaged. She said, "Carla, the dream is here."
wow.
And there were things in her dream that no one knew, not even her. She said, "There's something about that train." Well, and I just started bawling, crying
Wow.
because the train was significant in our engagement.
Wow.
That'll be in the book.
Okay. Oh, so we got a book coming.
Yes, she's
Oh,
got a book.
wonderful, wonderful. So you've been on this journey. You get the diagnosis and you are taking care of him. It is not an easy task, but your Yahweh has prepared you for this. He built you for this. You were
Mhm,
purposed for this.
mhm,
There was no thought about ever having to go through something like this. But when faced with it, you stepped up and did what was necessary because of the love you had for your husband.
mhm,
And now you're in this journey, and
mhm.
someone comes and talks to you about a documentary. How did that happen?
Well, it started, before I can remember, let's be real. Folks was telling me, Carla, you're going to be speaking in front of people. I was like, no, I'm not. I love the background. And one of the things I started doing when it came to speaking in front of people was when you and I was working together, um, but that was easy because we only talked to small salons or,
Right.
it was never 200 and 300 people at a time. And so the Alzheimer's Association asked me to speak for them on Advocacy Day. And Patrick stood by my side. And that was in 2020. We sold the house and then I moved again. And that's another story. Stay on track, Carla. So I move, I get here and I'm frantic. I'm looking for support groups. I don't know what Lewy body is, never heard of it. A lot of people in the medical field never heard of Lewy body. So I dove into Facebook. I dove into the internet. I went everywhere looking for Lewy, and I found the support group, spousal support for Lewy body. Lewy body spousal support is the name of the Facebook group. They're still open, and I see new members often. I mean, like weekly, there's new members in that group. So we joined that group, and probably a year after being in this group, Linda decided she wanted to jump in her mobile home and her and her husband and visit everybody across the country who was in the group. And then a couple of people from the Lewy Body Resource Center found out about it, and then they spoke to producers, and this transpired like with them finding out about it and them getting on the road. This transpired within 3 weeks, and they jumped on the road with them. And so then they asked, all of us. So they filmed our sessions, and then when it came down to, it was like 25 of us. And then it narrowed down to like 5 of us. And then it narrowed down to the 2 couples, Linda and Jim and Patrick and myself. And I just thought I was saying yes to being in a documentary so people can see what the journey looks like. Yes to, I just thought that was it. Well, now I have found out it's now growing legs and arms, and I'm getting phone calls from all over the place. People wanted me to come and speak and do this, and particularly in the African American community, because you will notice, that's one of the things I question when they see the documentary. How many people of color do you see?
You
I'm
do.
the only, I'm
Yes,
the
you're
only,
the only one.
and that's not their fault. That's our responsibility. We need to get it. We don't want to get help. We don't want to go out there, and we don't even know how to get help. Like you said, when your journey was, you didn't even know how. You didn't know where to turn. They don't know it exists. So again, and then too, if they do have access, they don't want people to know. I had one lady to tell me, no, I'm embarrassed. I don't want nobody to know. I'm inviting you to deal with other African American wives that's in the same situation. What are you embarrassed about? So I want to get rid of the stigma of mental health and getting help.
Yes, that's the
Mhm,
thing with it's
mhm.
just within our community. Mental health, if you even talk, this is something else, but if you even begin to talk about therapy, I don't want nobody to think I'm crazy and all that. We are starting to warm up to it, but we have such a long way to go. Yeah.
And not just in our community, and not just that. I can remember even in the faith-based community also, give it to the Lord, give it to the Lord. Well, yeah, I'm definitely giving it to the Lord. But you know what? These people are educating that can help you, guide you, and let you know what you're dealing with. And matter of fact, to this day, I'm in therapy and proud about it.
Come on.
And I can remember,
Yeah.
yeah, I can remember going to a service, a revival, and I went up for prayer, and I told the pastor, you know, a lot of people didn't know this about me, but I had been dealing with anxiety, you know. And he told me, your faith is just not strong enough. You need to get in the word more. Now, had I been okay, I know that just took you over, didn't it? That just took you all the way in. But had I been a very immature believer, I could have left out of there and just done something really crazy to myself. But
Or
I
something
knew.
else.
And you know what? And I never told anyone. I just told someone this probably about 6 months ago, the first time I spoke this part about it. Yeah. And even that, because I didn't know what to do with that. I was like, oh my, you know, well, I did kind of question it, but not enough to do anything crazy to myself because it was strong at that time.
The
Yeah,
ignorance that we
that's what
have
it is.
is astronomical. I can really say that. You know,
Mm-hmm.
actually, we have a couple of shows about that mental health, my mental, and the church. Um,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I have
I need to catch
a couple of shows about that and how we made everything a demon. Everything was a spirit, and how
They
we
give Satan too much
ain't got
credit.
nothing to do with it. Some I will say, because we have to be honest, some of it is spiritual, but we
Right.
have to be able to discern the difference because there is a balance, you know, and so but we've made everything, we've demonized everything. Everything is a spirit. No, you just need to pray. Like he told you, you ain't strong enough. You need to be in your word more. How dare
Mm-hmm.
you, or how you know? Again, your discernment, because obviously you have none. How do you
Right.
know I'm not in my word? How do you know I'm not in my on my floor, face down on my
Thank
carpet
you.
all the
Mhm.
time? And I came here because I needed a group of people to join me
Come
and
on.
and you got the
Mhm.
nerve, the audacity to stand in my face
Mhm.
and tell me, oh no, your faith is not strong enough. You need word. Now,
Yes.
he
Mhm.
is lucky that you weren't the type of person that would just go straight off, you know.
Right.
Or what if you had been the type that went for help, and this is what we talked about, that went for help, did not get that help, and then went home and took your life? Your
Yeah.
blood would have been on his hand. See, we got to
Right.
do better in
We
our
got to do better.
communities. We must do better. And
Mhm. Mhm.
even dementia, which is another form of mental illness, we have to make people aware of it. I remember
Mhm.
seeing commercials here or there, but when I was young, there wasn't enough information out there. There wasn't enough help
Right.
being blasted out there that I would know, let me reach out to them so they can help. So I applaud you now for what you're doing. But yeah, you do have a job to do because even in our churches, we still need to make awareness of this because that whole um, thought process of I don't want to be embarrassed. Well, baby, is this about you or is this about your loved one?
Right. Right. Yeah. And
Mhm.
and that's old school. Old school. A lot of, they didn't, what happens at home stays at home,
Yes.
and yet you're suffering unnecessarily. You're
Yes.
suffering unnecessarily when you can be getting help or just being, I'm telling you, I was in 5 groups, very close knit groups, and they became my family. Now, I did have my family that my friends and family that were here for me.
Good.
Whenever we would get together, me and Patrick get together with some friends. The one husband, Alex, he was like, okay, you go hang out with your friends. I got Patrick. He would take
Good.
him, So, and he understood because his father had dementia.
That's
So
good.
he understood that I needed a break. Um, And then we had other friends that would try to do, I had an older gentleman, he would come and take Patrick to the movies, and then I had another friend that had never met. He's a good friend of mine to this day. He and his wife never met Patrick. And he said, listen, gave the message to his wife, tell Carla, I want to meet Patrick. I will donate 4 hours every other week and come and watch him. Well, he came over and met him. Well, he never kept that promise. Mm-hmm. What he did do, he came almost every week.
Wow.
And he stayed with Patrick anywhere from 4 to 6 to 8 hours.
Wow.
Every week until he had something else going on and he said, hey, I can't make it. And we fought all the time. And I finally quit fighting with him. You know what the fight was about? This man that had never met Patrick in his life would never allow me to pay him.
Wow. Wow.
And that just, to this day, I just cannot believe, I am just so thankful. I mean, for a Black man to do that for another Black man. And when I say and then when the documentary, when they sent us away for a retreat, he stayed with him for that 6-7 days. It was a journey. He would chime in when he felt like he needed to, but he really tried not to call me on things. And the things that he had to tend to was, I don't know if I would have been able to do the things that he was able to do for Patrick.
Wow.
I mean, intense. When I say intense, and it was like water off a duck's back on him. He said, oh no, I'm good. He's also a retired fighter, so that might have been, but still his heart.
Yes.
He didn't know Patrick from Adam, and he still stepped up.
But isn't that amazing that Yahweh sends you what you need? He sends you what you need. So that's so amazing. So look, it's almost, I got to get you out of here. I want to show the documentary. So you guys, y'all bear with me. This is my first time.
You got it, girl. Can you blow it up? Bottom right. Yeah. The goofy side of him, the fun, that had disappeared.
We promised each other that we would take care of each other.
He is my knight in shining armor. Now he's not who he was. So it's just really hard.
It took 4 years to get a diagnosis, and I had to fight for that diagnosis. It was Lewy by dementia.
When I read the lab report, I was scared.
People live. People live 5 to 7 years. What the heck? What are we supposed to do? Just sit there and wait? We started support groups because we all felt so isolated. Sadly, we know what we're all going through. Yeah.
Hey, I gotta step out a minute.
Okay.
My husband is walking down the street.
Go get him. Go get him.
I just got diagnosed this past June, and a switch turned on in my brain, like a suicidal impulse.
Let me see a show of hands first off. Who all has ever contemplated suicide? Yeah, see? You're not alone in anything you're going through, but you're not.
Okay, come on, let's go to the back. He, being the proud man he is, this way. He definitely would have never chosen this. Come on, for either one of us.
This is my it's not fair cry.
Let's get in the RV and go.
Yeah.
We're gonna go and stop and visit people in the support group on the way.
Hey, there he is. What do you know?
Finally, at last.
Good to meet you.
I am now.
What is that?
You ready? He started having more agitation.
You're tired. You need to figure out how to get you comfortable.
I want to go home.
our friends and family, they look at us, oh, they're so strong. They doing this and they doing that. But yeah, I'm literally crumbling inside.
I don't think I can keep doing this 21st. I'm not as strong as some of the women in the group.
Finally meet. Girls trip cheaper than therapy.
That was good. One, two, three.
So that's the trailer.
That's the trailer. The documentary will be out May 3rd.
May 3rd here in Sacramento at the Historical Guild Theater. We have 2 shows, 12 and 5 o'clock, and you can get your tickets through Eventbrite. Yeah. So it's going to be a good show. I will say the documentary itself is of love, resilience, and it leaves you hopeful. Yeah.
Well, I'm looking forward to the documentary. I'm all teared up over here. I want to thank you so much. I wish I could keep you longer, but I can't. I know you got to go. I want to thank you so much for coming and sharing a part of your story. And I have one more surprise. I pray this one works too. One more surprise for you.
I do see some people have some questions.
Okay, hold on. We got questions. Okay. Let's put this one up here. All right. Is it just something that happens with males?
No. But it's seemingly that it's more males than females. But because we don't step up and get the testing done, it's really not accurate. We really don't know.
So people can be dealing with it, and because there probably have been a lot of people that would have been diagnosed with this, but because we don't step up and get the help, we don't have accurate numbers of what that looks like. So,
and Lewy body is the second most common, but one of the hardest to diagnose.
Why is it the hardest to diagnose?
Because of the different mixed, the mixed part of it, because it can look like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, Lewy body. It's all these different symptoms that go under there, but the testing is getting better. They're starting to get quicker diagnosis for Lewy body, but they still have a ways to go. What
would your advice be? Give us your advice and then your closing words, and then I will share my surprise with you.
I can't wait to what you got going on. My advice would be get some help. Do not even attempt to do this by yourself. There's so many communities out here that you can tap into, because you doing it on yourself, trying to do it on yourself, you're doing more damage, And I'm a young person and sought out help and practice self-care, and I can still tell that it had an effect on my body. Okay. So I would definitely say, definitely get help, and just know you're not alone. You're not alone.
Early signs, pay attention to early signs.
If you see something that makes you say, just start paying attention. The little things. There's so many. You can Google the symptoms of Alzheimer's, the symptoms of Lewy body, the symptoms of Parkinson, and just start doing your checkoff list.
If somebody is going through this and they would like your help, how do they contact you?
You can reach me at Inner Beauty by Design, and that's through all social medias. My website is Inner Beauty by Design, Facebook, and Instagram. And my email is innerbeautybydesign@gmail.com.
Wonderful. I did tag it in the description But if anybody wants to reach out, or if you know somebody who's dealing with somebody that's going through this, Miss Carla is an excellent resource, and I'm so grateful that you were here to share your story. And now I'm going to do my best to share my surprise with you. I did this little video myself.
Aww. You were sneaky.
So, Miss Carter, I want you to know that I love you dearly. I am grateful that we got to spend time together. Oh, I'm going to cry. Behind the chair and got to know each other. I'm so grateful that you are sharing your story with others and even going around the world, helping others to go through this. Thank you for taking time to be here with us today. And we will be looking forward to that documentary. And guys, if you have time, go look for the interviews as well, because they are very informative. And again, reach out to Miss Carla if you need any help. I want to thank you guys for being here. Meet us next week, same time, 4 p.m., where we have another amazing topic for you, another guest. Until then, have an amazing week. Remember, if you see anyone, if you have any symptoms or you have anybody going through that, just reach out, get help. There's support available. Take care. I'll see you next week. Shalom, everybody.